Hey everybody, my name is Tofu, and I tried to make Knott's Berry Farm in Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. I grew up right around Knott's Berry Farm in Buena Park, California, and of course for the tour we're going to get a little bit of rain. But I took some time to build this over on stream, and I'm calling this a Knott's Berry Farm inspired park rather than a real recreation. You'll notice right away there's some spacing issues, and I was pretty limited by the choice to do this in the scenario for the Build Your Own Six Flags Park. But I'm really proud of what happened, and I'd like to give you guys a little tour. So, yeah, we'll just get started. We'll start with my Ghost Rider. It did end up being one of the most intense rides that we have here in the park. I tried to remain as true as possible to the designs. However, I was pretty limited by space as well as just kind of the parameters in which the game kind of confines you. Once I was getting close to the end of the park, I did always average somewhere around 6,000, 5 to 6,000 guests at any given time. From there, we'll move on. Bigfoot Rapids, which I think is now called Calico Rapids. It's been a few years since I've been in the park. This was one that I was pretty proud with, only because I don't really play with a lot of scenery creation, nor do I play with landscaping, kind of the digging tools to any capacity. So this ended up being as visually appealing as I could have imagined. Pretty standard stats, but pretty high excitement. I usually am not able to make river rapids that have any kind of respectable stat. Let's move on to Pony Express, which is actually broken, traveling at 0 miles an hour. Huh. That does look like it's broken down. We'll take a look at it in a little bit, but I mean, Pony Express IRL is a pretty crummy ride. But you can see this is one of the limitations of the game that I had, right? Like, unless you do some of the mods in OpenRCT2, you don't have, for example, the accelerated lift like you do have in the IRL Knott's Berry Farm for the motorbike type ride. Just like in real life, the Pony Express stats are not too exciting. We'll keep going around the park here. For Knott's Berry Tales, I just recreated the Ghost Train coaster. I don't know what that ride looks like. I haven't been to the park since they opened this. Charles M. Schulz Theater, it's just the 3D cinema show. Again, another huge limitation of what I was able to do in the park. This is my hang time. Obviously, it's not a vertical lift like hang time is, and some of the track isn't picture perfect, but it certainly captures, I think, the essence of their newest dive coaster. Some pretty sweet stats. But of course, you know, I worked at the park at a time when certain rides were there. Boomerang, had to put it in there. Riptide, had to put it in there. You'll also notice that there's not a lot of the shops and stalls are not exactly placed as they are in the park, right? This is again Knott's Berry Farm inspired rather than kind of an exact recreation. I also didn't do a recreation because I really suck at building buildings. Coast Rider, one of the last ones I custom built into the into the park only because I forgot that it existed. And so that's why you'll probably see that it has a pretty long line. Another limitation, I built in one of the Enterprise rides here, rather than doing, because there is no ride type like Surfside gliders. Had to keep Perilous Plunge. I don't care if anybody died. We built Perilous Plunge. It's a great memory I have of riding that ride in the dead of winter. Many times as a kid. Do a little turnaround. Here's Accelerator. I really liked how this one turned out. It definitely looks the part, even if it doesn't. Even if you're limited to only, kind of the angles of, the kind of 45-degree only angles that you can build here. But you got our 3 towers for Supreme Scream. The log ride was one of the instances I just took one of the kind of pre-built in the ride, only because, again, I suck at building buildings. So I just went ahead and used the splash mine and just renamed it. It looks the part, certainly. We can move on into Fiesta Village. Oh, here's what we're calling the Butterfield Stagecoach. Butterfield Stagecoach is just a monorail that I painted brown and made the trains as short as possible. Simply because you are unable to have a horse-drawn carriage ride. Fiesta Village, this is where I put a lot of the thrill rides. I called this Wave Swinger here. Just another Enterprise. Soul Spin. There isn't a ride like Soul Spin pre-built into the vanilla version of RCT2. So we just made Space Rings instead. I don't usually play with scenery all that often. So this is about as creative as it gets. Clearly it's not the most beautiful. There's certainly some really, really nice RCT creators out there who play really well with buildings and scenery. They play with a lot of the mods, and I am just not one of those creators. That's alright. Jaguar, a few limitations, It is the junior coaster ride type, but I knew it wasn't able to make it high enough to go through the loop. That was a must-have. Jaguar had to go through Montezuma's Revenge's loop. And all things considered, like the stats ended up, the stats for the Silver Bullet and Ghost Rider rides are far higher than for rides like Jaguar, Sierra Sidewinder, Montezuma's Revenge, right? They're much larger rides, and I was really glad that that all kind of panned out without putting a ton of detail into it. The smaller railroad here is the Grand Sierra Railroad that goes around the lake. That's part of, it's a Camp Snoopy ride. Often forgotten, but I thought it was a fun little detail to throw in there. Where you're going to see the most, how do I say this? Like the most lenient definitions of what the rides were is going to be in Camp Snoopy. I put a second Dragon Swing here for a ride called Rapid River Run. Not exactly the same, right? Another junior coaster for the little Baby Town ride that's in there. Obviously, there's not go-karts that go super fast. They go 25 miles an hour in the child section of Knott's Berry Farm, but I went ahead and built it anyway as the Rocky Mountain Trucking Company. Another theater. This is the Camp Snoopy Theater. I just decided to make it a 3D cinema. So we did our best with what we had. Snoopy's Bounce House, which I think was taken out in 2014, but it's a memory I have as a kid, so I put it in there too. Sierra Sidewinder, again, limitations of the game. You're not exactly able to have the same exact types of trains or the ability to move the track around as cleanly, or I guess with as much versatility as the game. A lot less versatility in the direction of the track in Roller Coaster Tycoon. I think if I got really good at some of the other, roller coaster theme park kind of simulators, I'd have a lot more ability to recreate the park. But this whole project started because I loved Knott's Berry Farm. I loved Roller Coaster Tycoon as a kid, and no one had posted this exact video yet on YouTube. I hadn't seen it, so. The Wild West Stunt Show is just a circus. And the final piece that we put into the park was this version of Silver Bullet, kind of inspired. It gets the job done, certainly. It looks the part. I tried to see it much more intense. I think it's the most intense roller coaster in the park. I think it's the highest excitement rating also in the park. And I tried to be as true as I could. The max speeds are pretty similar. The ride lengths are actually typically longer in my Roller Coaster Tycoon versions than IRL. But, it definitely captures the spirit, I think. Most of the time, my guests were pretty happy. There has been some confusion since I built. All these crowds here are actually, a lot of them are trying to get to Sierra Sidewinder. But just the way that these paths have worked out, the AI guests have not been able to find it, which has led to some crowding issues. But, you do what you can. And then, again, clearly we have some spacing issues. Silver Bullet and Ghost Rider do not share a path to entry. But all in all, I was pretty satisfied with how this went. For the Calico Mine Ride, I just did the Ghost Train again. Because I'm bad at building buildings, so. I think that if I did this in sandbox mode, I would be able to have a few different ride types that would unlock a few more options as far as capturing realism, as well as unlocking. If I was playing in a sandbox mode, I would have a lot more access to scenery items. The Wild West theming in particular, some of the other buildings. But all in all, I thought that this was a pretty solid way to get started. So this is the first time I've ever recorded any of my OBS stuff, anything through OBS. So bear with me. Appreciate the kindness that I'm anticipating happens here. And if you like what you're seeing, I actually streamed this entire thing over on my Twitch channel, and I will go ahead and throw a link for our tiny and loving community over there. So thanks for watching, if you've stuck around this far, and see you next time. All right.